Alright guys, this video is meant for you to kind of get ready for the rest of your online learning through IXL. Kind of walking through and talking you through a few things in terms of how you should maybe go about trying to get your assignments completed. If you get stuck with things, what you need to do with that. If you have questions, how you can handle those things as well. So just make sure you're taking the time to kind of watch through this video and kind of look through some of the things that may pop up when you're trying to work through and complete some of these assignments, because the expectation is to get 2 of these done each week here, the rest of our online learning through May 22nd. And so you'll be doing this on a regular basis and trying to complete these assignments, a couple assignments each week. So it's important that you kind of make sure that you walk through the steps and know what you need to do in terms of getting the assignments completed with a SMART score of 80, because that's what we're going to stick with. But then also, if you get stuck on something or you need extra help, those types of things, how you can go about getting those things done. So the first thing that you need to think about when you're getting ready to do these assignments and kind of work through them, what you want to think about is, obviously what assignments you should be working on. This is just an example of the pre-algebra document. It looks pretty similar to Algebra 1's document as well. These will be in the folders here in Schoology each week from here on out. This document here is meant to give you an idea of some of the lessons or concept skills that we'd be covering in class if we're still meeting. And so pre-algebra's got their own list or set of skills we would be doing for Units 7 and 8. Same thing for Algebra 1 with Unit 8, and then remember we'd go back to Unit 5. So this is a good place to start when you're thinking about the 2 assignments you want to get done per week. It's a good place to start because obviously these would be things that we'd be covering and going over in class if we're meeting face-to-face. So it's things that you'd want to have moving into your freshman year, whether you're going to be taking Algebra 1, moving from pre-algebra to Algebra 1, or moving from Algebra 1 to a geometry class. So this is a good place to start. There's also those recommendations that came from your IXL diagnostic that you can look at. Some of those skills, maybe from previous grades or even grades above where you're at this point. So those are good things to do as well. But the main thing is, picking and choosing the assignments that are going to be helpful and beneficial to you. So this document is here is meant to help you, guide you through that. But then also you can make decisions, wise decisions about what their recommendations were on your IXL diagnostic when you looked at those results as well. So I'm just going to kind of walk through one of these assignments and take a look at it with you guys. So I'll just pick the first one here on the pre-algebra list. It's called Division of Property with Exponents, and this is a good way to kind of take a look at and go through just some examples of what you might encounter when you're going through this, and then also some things that are helpful to you in terms of if you get stuck and those types of things. You obviously want to make sure you're logged into IXL correctly. That way you're getting credit for your SMART score and points and things like that. Remember, we're going to shoot for a SMART score of 80. If you want to go above that, that's great. That's fine. But as long as you hit that 80 mark for each assignment, that's going to be good enough and get those 2 assignments with SMART scores of 80 for each week. So one thing that I want to draw your attention to first, and this is something you guys are probably aware of, but if not, it's also a good thing just to know. Usually at the top, it tells you the grade level and the assignment name, so that's important for you to look at those 2 things. That's how you're going to tell me or show me what assignments you're getting done as well. And if you have questions about an assignment, those are going to be important as well, so we'll get to that here in a minute. But that tells you, where this is in terms of your learning and things like that. But right underneath that, it says Learn with an Example. And if you've never clicked on this button before, it's a really good resource, a really good tool, especially if it's something that's new to you, like a lot of these assignments are going to be, or things that you haven't thought about in a while, those types of things. And so it kind of walks you through an example. So for this example, since we're talking about division with exponents and using those rules, basically what it tells you, you simplify and express your answer as a single term without a denominator. So that means you need to come up with an answer where it's not going to be in fraction form without a denominator. So it says, your key idea here after you look at the question is to divide the powers with the same base, you subtract their exponents. So it gives you kind of an idea of a rule of how you're going to solve these problems, right? So it says any number to the first power is equal to itself. And so if you look at that, then it also gives you a simplified version or solution to this problem. So if you have something like this where it's y to the 8th power divided by y to the 7th power, when we know those exponents, that means we're taking that factor of y 8 times, dividing that factor by y of 7 times. And if we do that and we've listed it all out in standard form rather than exponent form, we would know that those things would cancel each other out, right? So the subtraction comes from that part. And so it says divide the y's. Remember, you're subtracting your exponents, so really the answer here would be y to the first power. And like it says here, any number to the first power is equal to itself. So the answer would be y to that example. So that's just a good tool, right? Let's learn with the example tool that comes up at the top of each lesson. So that's something that, if the lesson's new, it's a good place to start with. So another thing that can be helpful other than that learn with the example is if you get a question wrong and you're kind of looking at it. So let's just say, for example, I do this one incorrectly. So let's say I get p to the 5th. That's probably not the right answer to this one. So if I click submit and it tells me I'm incorrect, obviously we want to make sure that we've got the correct answer. So it'll tell us that p to the negative first, which makes sense because if I go back and think, it just told me, right, I'm supposed to subtract in this example when I'm looking at my exponents. So that makes sense, p to the negative first. So again, this kind of talks about or reviews with you what your answer was if it was wrong, but then it also gives you kind of the reminder, so your key ideas here, and then how you would simplify and solve this one. So it says your reminders to divide the powers with the same base, subtract those exponents, so if they have the same base, that's what I'm doing, and then it obviously shows you there how you would simplify or solve this answer. And so this one says divide the p's, remembering to subtract the exponents, and so that's how you get your answer. So that's another tool, right, if you get something wrong, to make sure that you take the time to go back and look at that. I know a lot of you guys, you see an incorrect answer, even if you don't, it's like the 5th one in, you're just like, okay, I got it, move on. But really take a look at it, especially if you get 2 or 3 in a row wrong. It's really important that you probably look at that explanation, right, that kind of goes along with it, and see why you got it wrong. Maybe I answered p to the first and it should have been p to the negative first, so that was the step that I did wrong. Or maybe I look at it and say, okay, p to the 5th, that was nowhere close. What was I doing? I wasn't even adding or subtracting. I wasn't even multiplying or dividing there, so something was way off. So just that reminder of dividing the powers with the same base and subtracting the exponents might be enough to make sure that I get the next thing right and those types of things. So after that point, once you get to that point, right, and you've answered these questions and you get to that SMART score that you want, another big thing is you're going to make sure that you're taking a screenshot of your score and turning it in on Schoology, kind of like you've been doing with your past assignments so far that have been on IXL, and then turning it on Schoology. If you have questions about that, I'm also going to send a video of how you create screenshots, because I know some people are still struggling with that. And so if that's an issue for you for whatever reason, you can watch that video, and if it's still not working for you, please let me know. I want to make sure I'm giving you credit, so I know on Schoology you're supposed to be turning in those screenshots of your assignment, but if that's an issue for whatever reason, I don't want that to be the case, that you don't get your points each week and those types of things. So make sure you're reaching out to me and letting me know if that's the case when you get done. Okay. One other final thing I want to mention to you guys, you're going to have that list there of those assignments like we talked about, but another thing that's going to be really helpful in terms of, if you need to reach out to me for help, or if we need to figure out exactly something that, is going on that's wrong, or you're just not understanding it, I'm going to also have the link to this Google form for both Pre-Algebra and Algebra 1. So when you click on that form, it'll show up in Schoology. And this is something where you're going to give me some more specifics about what you're struggling with and how I can help you. Okay. So this form, there are things that are required. You need to make sure you put your name so I know who this is coming from, right? The assignment name and letters and numbers. So if you remember, that's coming from right here, right? The letters and number. So F9 division with exponents is what I would put in the blank for this one, right? And then I would put the grade level. I'd also put 8 in there because that's what it's coming up with. So F9 division with exponents is what I would type here, right? I'd put my name, so Mr. Hill, or whatever your name is. And then as you go through here, you can screenshot, right? A specific question you might have or one that you're struggling with. So the good thing about adding this file right here, having that in the form, is that you can add a screenshot to it. And hopefully this will load so you can kind of see it here in just a second. But the idea for that add file button is to upload an image of a screenshot that you might need for a problem or something like that would take there. So if this doesn't work for whatever reason, that's why that's there. And then the other questions that kind of come through from this, if we go back and look at this Google form, maybe it's just not working because it's in Schoology there. But the other questions from this Google form, you could type your question if a screenshot's not available or you can't make that. But then the last two questions are really important here too. Can you make it to the next conference call for your class? Yes, no, maybe. That'll tell me if I can, directly answer your question on a conference call or if I need to reach out to you another way. And so that last part there, if you can't make the conference call, how would you like me to help? What's the best way to communicate? Whether it's through Schoology Messenger or email or something like that, that's going to be helpful to you as well. Okay, so make sure that you're understanding how to kind of navigate that as well when you're going through this stuff. Okay, so that's kind of, in a nutshell, that's kind of what it's going to look like for the rest of our time. Those conferences are going to be really important for me to kind of work through some different examples each day, and so that's kind of what I envision that being for. And any questions that you have, you can obviously fill out this Google form that's here. That's going to be linked in Schoology. I would start with this list if you're kind of struggling on figuring out which assignments you should do. Whether you're pre-algebra or algebra 1, I would start with those essential skills, the things that we would be covering in class. Kind of go through and work through this list. This is the order in which we would kind of work through stuff as well. And so that's important that you can kind of go through and do that. But you can also, like I said, you can also pick from that recommended list that you get from after your diagnostic results. So this was just a kind of an informational video. I know it's a little bit longer video, but I just wanted to make sure I covered some things with you guys to help you kind of get started with working through different IXL assignments. If you have any questions, just like normal, right? If you have any questions about anything, make sure you're checking in normally with those conferences when you have questions, and also shooting emails if things are not working the way that you need to, and those types of things. The whole idea is to expand what we've done so far this year, but kind of go at your own pace and make your own decisions based on what you think would be best for you and what suits best for you each week going through these two assignments. So make sure that you're reaching out, make sure you're communicating, make sure you're ending up in those conferences when you can on Schoology, and this will work in a way that's going to benefit each individual student, but everybody collectively too, just in terms of how you're submitting your assignments and how you're getting questions answered and working through the rest of the material. Hope you guys are all doing well. Reach out if you need anything, but make sure you definitely watch this video and go back if you need to re-watch some things that kind of go over this. Thanks.